In this video, I'll be testing 4 versions of what might be the most popular fishing knot ever. First, I'll test the simple clinch knot, followed by 2 improved versions, the Fisherman's knot and the Trilene knot. Finally, we'll test an improved version of the Trilene knot. I call this series Knot Science. You might say Knot Science. However, I can honestly say that I've done my best to make the tests as precise and consistent as possible. The simple clinch, as the name suggests, is very easy to tie. Pass the line through the eye of the hook or swivel and make 4 to 5 turns around the main line. Then bring the line back through the gap between the swivel and the knot. Tighten the knot, but not completely. Before tightening fully, it's a good idea to wet the knot. Once the knot is wet, you can tighten it completely. For this knot, I recommend moistening it, but we will get back to that later in the video. When showing how the knots are tied, I use a slightly thicker line than the one used in the test. For all the tests in this video, I used this monofilament nylon line from a well-known brand. This is not a line test, it's a comparison between different knots. We'll start with a simple clinch knot. Normally, it's recommended to use 4 to 6 turns around the main line, but I'll start with just 1 turn, just to see what happens. Of course, no one would tie the knot this way. It's clear that the knot isn't locked and the tag end slips. It is not a surprise that the knot isn't particularly strong. 1.49 kilograms, 3.28 pounds isn't much for a 16-pound line. In the second test, still with 1 turn, the tag end slips again. The overall result after 3 tests isn't good, but also not surprising. With 2 turns, the result improves slightly, but the knot still doesn't lock. It slips. We move on to 3 turns, and now the results are somewhat better. We can see that the knot slides up to a certain point where it locks. The tag end locks under a pull of approximately 2.5 to 3 kilograms. With 3 turns, the results are indeed somewhat better as well. An average of 4.25 kilograms, equivalent to 9.45 pounds. With 4 turns, we again see an improvement, although the tag end still slips significantly within the knot. With 5 turns, the knot often slips under tension at around 2.5 kilograms. We also see the line slipping within the knot, which undoubtedly weakens it. With 6 turns, the knot looks fine under tension. But the result clearly shows that the many turns significantly weaken the knot. With 7 turns, it becomes difficult to pull the knot tight when tying it. Even though the knot looks good, the many turns weaken it. The result is clear: the more turns, the weaker the knot. This knot is called both the improved clinch and the Fisherman's knot. It's undoubtedly one of the most popular fishing knots in the world. It's still a clinch knot, but the difference is that the line is brought back through the loop between the knot and the tag end. There are actually 2 ways to tie this knot, with a small difference between them. When bringing the line back through the loop, you can twist the line to lock the tag end, or simply pass the line through the loop without locking it. The latter feels more natural, but the tag end doesn't fully lock. When you see the knot described, both variations are shown, but the first is the most common. Many people don't realize there are two ways to tie it, or that there's a difference in knot strength, but we'll get back to that. I call the two versions the locked and unlocked fisherman's knot. You can tell the difference with this rule of thumb. In the locked knot, the tag end often points backward. In the unlocked knot, the tag end points forward. First, let's look at the locked fisherman's knot. In my opinion, the correct way to tie it. We remember that with one turn, the result for the simple clinch knot was very poor. Now we'll try the fisherman's knot with one turn. The result is much better than the simple clinch. With two turns, the result naturally improves further. Let's move on to 3 turns. The results are fairly consistent and almost the same as with 2 turns. Now we'll test with 4 turns. The result isn't as good as with 2 or 3 turns. However, in one of the tests, we see how the knot truly locks the tag end. A gap forms between the hook eye and the knot, and the tag end doesn't give, even when tightened hard. The pattern continues. The more turns, the weaker the knot becomes. It's often said that you should use 4 to 6 turns for a fisherman's knot, but here the best results are with 2, 3, and 4 turns. Now we'll test the unlocked fisherman's knot. I've tested both variations, and while the difference isn't huge, there is a difference. For example, you can see how easily the unlocked knot slips at 4 turns. Both knots perform best with 2, 3, and 4 turns. The small differences could be the result of natural variation in the test results. The locked fisherman's knot is, on average, the better option. This is also an improved clinch, but this variation is called the Trilene Knot. It is also a very popular knot. It is easy to tie and resembles the simple clinch, but here the line is passed through the hook or swivel eye twice. We'll start again with 1 turn. Wow, it's extremely strong. The tag end is really well locked throughout all 3 tests with 1 turn. The Trilene knot is already stronger than the fisherman's knot at this point. We test with 2 turns, still a good result. 3 turns, we see how the knot remain strong and well locked. With 4, 5, 6, and 7 turns, it can sometimes be a bit harder to tighten the knot completely when tying it. However, this didn't make much difference in the results. It's a strong knot that delivers very consistent results. It's surprising to see that with 1 turn, the result is almost the same as with 4 turns, and better than with 7 turns. Can the Trilene knot be improved? Some say so. Let's look at the improved Trilene knot. This knot combines the Fisherman's knot and the Trilene knot. The line is passed twice through the swivel and then brought back through the loop between the knot and the tag end. I'll keep it short. It works well with 1 turn, but after that, it's worse than the Trilene knot. Because of the final loop, it's a bit more complex and harder to tighten when tying. This becomes clear when comparing the 2 knots. The regular Trilene knot is on the left, and the so-called improved version is on the right. The results are less consistent than with the Trilene knot. In my tests, the improved Trilene knot is definitely not an improvement. When comparing the clinch knots tested, the simple clinch knot is definitely not a knot I'd recommend. It requires at least 4 to 6 turns, and the results are inconsistent. The Fisherman's knot is much better and works best with 2, 3, or 4 turns. The Trilene knot is clearly the best knot in terms of knot strength and consistent results. And unlike the other knots, it is strong regardless of how many turns are used. As we just saw, it is even better than the improved version. My conclusion, entirely my opinion. When the tag end is locked, too many turns weaken the line within the knot. That's why I often see the line break just above the knot. The section of line pulled through all the turns. As we've seen, knot strength has a lot to do with how many turns you use. It's said that the thinner the line, the more turns you need. Is there really a difference when it comes to line diameter? I made an entire video about it, and the results are surprising. You'll find the link in the description. All knots in the test were moistened before being tightened. It is said that friction inside the knot weakens the line if the knot is not moistened before tightening. Is that true, and what happens if you just tie the knot dry? I tested this with our winner, the Trilene knot. I conducted tests with 2 and 3 turns using both monofilament and fluorocarbon lines. Here we see an example from one of the tests. The wet knot is on the left and the dry knot is on the right. There are visible surface damages on the line to the right where the knot was tightened dry. And here there is a clear difference in the result. However, there is not a significant difference in the overall result with monofilament. The moistened knot is on the left and the dry knot is on the right. They have the same strength at 2 turns and are slightly weaker at 3 turns. The difference is minimal and should be considered as part of the unavoidable variations in this test. But we have just seen quite a big difference with fluorocarbon line. Note that the fluorocarbon line is 15 pounds and the monofilament is 18 pounds. Also, remember that this is not a comparison between lines, but between the individual knots. With fluorocarbon, we see that the knots are slightly stronger when it is moistened. I would always recommend moistening the line before tightening the knot. In any case, it is easier to tighten the knot properly when it is moistened. In conclusion, Regarding the clinch knot, do not use too many turns. And here is a simple and effective rule of thumb for the Trilene knot. Pass the line twice and turn it twice. This will give you a really strong and reliable knot.